All right, this is Brent Leary, and with me today is Stefan Pretty. Stefan is the founder and CEO of Subly. We're going to talk about what Subly is. We're going to talk about subscriptions. We're going to talk about subscriptions in e-commerce. But before we do all that, Stefan, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Brent. I sincerely appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about you, and also tell us about Subly.
Sure. So I'm from Scotland, residing in Los Angeles right now. And basically, back when I was in Scotland, I used to run a digital agency, and one of our prospect clients was wanting to start a subscription box business, and our shop could have built it, but it would have cost them a lot of money. So we were looking for a solution that would make it more affordable because their budget was quite limited. And at the time, subscription was on the radar. It was becoming a thing. Like, I was a subscriber of Gracebox, and you get the food punnets delivered to you every week, like the healthy snacks. I don't know how healthy they really were, but it was a nice idea, and I was a big fan of that, and I was aware of it. So I did some research, discovered that subscription was on the rise. It was a fascinating business model because it's complicated, and I like complicated things. So I basically had that light bulb moment where I was like, there's no solution out there in the market, so I'm going to just create one. And I was like, I'm not going to miss another opportunity, so this is the one. So that was 4 years ago now. So now we're helping small businesses get up and running, and existing businesses add subscriptions. So it's really cool.
So you mentioned to me before we started recording that you like to think of yourselves as the Shopify for subscriptions. So tell me, why is the combination of e-commerce and subscription something that is really important from a small business perspective?
Sure. So I think we're so used to the one-way transaction. Like, if you go into a store, you buy a product, you leave it. And I think that e-commerce is so thoroughbred now. Like, Shopify have done a fantastic job of getting that down to an art. It's more of a science now. But they've moved so far in that direction, and all these platforms that exist, including Shopify, BigCommerce, etc. These guys are so far in those directions now that it's kind of hard for them to really incorporate subscription, which is a very complex, technically a very complex business model, to add suddenly. So I think that presented an opportunity for some other platforms to exist that were more subscription focused, and that also did e-commerce, because ultimately e-commerce, as I said, it is a science. Don't get me wrong, I'm not discrediting that, but it's slightly more simple than subscription. I don't want to offend anybody here. So I think I would compare us to the Shopify in the sense that we give you the tools to allow you to build your business, to allow you to be successful, rather than being like the platform or like the Amazon direction where we offer you the marketing services as well. So that's how we see ourselves at the moment. But does that clear it up?
Yeah, absolutely. And you said you've been around for about 3 or 4 years, and subscriptions. Tell us how subscription models matured. How are they being received? In particular, how are small businesses leveraging subscriptions today as opposed to when you first got started?
Yeah, I think back when we started Subly, it was very primitive. It was very straightforward in the sense that you subscribe and you just there was no customization to it or no personalization to it. And everybody was just trying to figure it out at that point in time. Even the big guys were trying to figure it out. Grays were really doing a great job of innovating in this space, because you could actually go in and say, I liked that product, I didn't like that product, and they would adapt your experience. So, the cost of doing that for a small business is astronomical, and it's not feasible. So when we started out, it was very primitive. And I think over the last 3 years even, it's just been the expectations and the bar has just constantly gone up as everybody's been learning, and it's just been a very steep learning curve. But now you'll find that even the small businesses expect, and obviously the customers expect this because of the big businesses who have innovated in this, the customization aspect and the personalization aspect, to give the consumer what it is that they like, what they want, which is going to allow them to stay on and be a customer for much longer. So I think that's the goal, and the small businesses understand that now, because there's plenty of resources out there now, and it's obvious when you can see it, it's moving that direction. So it's definitely growing and become more advanced and complex, and I think it is going to continue, to be honest with you. But it's our job, to enable that.
You mentioned something to me yesterday when we talked about looking at your Facebook group. You said roughly about 75% of the folks in your Facebook group are female entrepreneurs. And
That's
a lot
right.
of them are doing, building their subscription business kind of on the side. Talk a little bit about, is that something that you see as a trend? Is that something that you see the ability of subscriptions to help folks like women entrepreneurs that are working on the side to kind of start their business and then eventually move it into something that could be a full-time thing?
Yeah, 100%. 75%. And that's a staggering statistic when you think about it. And I think what's happening is we're seeing a lot of people. The thing is about subscription is it's extremely appealing in the sense that, I can have a business that I can turn that a one-time transaction and all the effort I've gone into getting that customer and having them as a repeat customer, and therefore it's going to be easier. It isn't necessarily easier, which is the interesting part. So there is a kind of a gap that needs to be closed in terms of understanding and expectations, which we're working on, but or making it easier. But I think that the trend is that it's attracting at-home, mothers or parents in general, actually. And also, it's attracting, people who have full-time jobs and they're wanting to start their side hustle, because I think we're seeing a movement away from this corporate stale world where people are starting to realize that, you have to fight for your own survival and create your own, empire, so to speak, and create your own resources. So I think people are really hungry, and entrepreneurship became cool suddenly, like in the last 5 to 10 years, and I think everybody wants to get involved with it. But it's really, I think it's a great thing because it causes more innovation faster, and that's definitely the trend at the moment. But don't get me wrong, you still have the existing businesses and the small businesses who really know what they're doing and have a solid business plan. They have some resources behind them, and they've got experience, say, in online marketing, and they come in there, execute immediately, and then within a day they're already 50 subscribers, which is really cool to see. That really excites me to know that we're enabling people to do that as well. So it's fascinating seeing the shift in mentality from the common workplace to people focusing on creating their own wealth.
How are things like AI? How is that impacting the way subscription businesses are being built, and also the kind of experiences that subscription businesses can offer their customers?
Yeah, I think this is still in its early stages. I do think AI, or specifically machine learning, is going to become more and more prevalent. I mean, let's take the example recently, it's Amazon Prime, and they've just launched their automated store. And I basically had a conversation with one of my dear friends a couple of years ago. We were talking about it would be really awesome to have an unmanned automated store where you could throw products in the cart and it would just charge your account with an RFID or something like that. And 2 years later, only 2 years later, it happened. And it just shows if it sounds crazy, it might actually end up happening. And AI is actually allowing these things to happen. So I think that machine learning is becoming more and more critical in the kind of consumer relationship world as well. And that obviously applies specifically to subscription businesses, because a lot of it's down to our services. A lot of it's down to the personalization aspect, understanding the consumer's behavior and giving them what they want to increase that lifetime value and build a relationship. It's instead of it's a relationship you're building. So you're gonna have that constant communication and contact, and you want the customer to stick around for years. So I think also on the consumer side, the demand is I want just to have what I want, and without any effort or thinking about it, and it to be good quality and to be easy and convenient and delivered to my door tomorrow. And that's because the bar keeps getting pushed up because of companies like Amazon, and the small businesses need a chance to be able to actually have a piece of that, because the bar is being risen so much, it's harder for a small business to actually get in on and appeal to the consumer because of those expectations. So I think it comes down to the platforms like us who have the responsibility to simplify and make it accessible for these entrepreneurs. But machine learning will be a massive component of that, and it's something that we're going to have to innovate with quickly, because I think it's going to happen faster than we even imagined, to be honest with you. So I don't know, 1 year, 2 years, things are going to be very different, I think.
Stefan, thanks for taking the time. Where can people learn more about what you guys are doing at Subly?
Sure. So we've got a ton of resources on our blog, on our website, or if you're interested, we have a 14-day free trial just to kick the tires. Our website is www.subly.co. And if you have any questions, I'm always open.